So I am Krisha Spears. I'm with the Reach Initiative. I do all of the things behind the scene with the Reach. So writing the grants and figuring out how to process those and do all the final paperwork, order all the stuff for our duffel bag projects, all the behind the scenes. And then I was on the planning committee for the restorative justice that you just spoke at Buckhannon. So I was on the planning committee for that. I don't know. I'm kind of all the back here in the background stuff. So pass it over to Aaliyah.
Hello, my name is Aaliyah Tanner. I work for Disability Rights of West Virginia. I am specifically what they call the Client Assistance Program advocate. I work with Division of Rehabilitative Services to assist people that have disabilities overcome barriers to employment. Disability Rights as a whole is the federally mandated protection and advocacy group for the state of West Virginia. We have loads of programs, and there's no age limit, there's no requirements, and all of our services are free of charge. I am in the process of typing in my contact information as well as our website, and I highly recommend people going to our website, checking it out, because there is piles and piles of resources for people there. And I will pass it off to looks like Ryan Elkins.
My name is Ryan Elkins, and I'm the Peer Recovery Support Specialist for Marshall University's Collegiate Recovery Community and the West Virginia Collegiate Recovery Network. I'm the founder and CEO of the Lincoln County Community Outreach Program and Commissioner for Volunteer West Virginia out of the Governor's Office.
Well, I'm Terry Castle. I am the chairwoman of the Cabell Lincoln Reentry Council meeting, the newest chairwoman. And I am a reachback navigator. So I really work one-on-one with people in prison, people just getting out of prison. I try to find home plans, enroll them in drug treatment or whatever they need. And I will pass it to Tina Ramirez.
Hello, I'm with Marshall Health, and for this group, I manage Wayne, Mason, and Putnam quick response teams, but I really connect services from Charleston south, anything to do with the entire continuum for substance use disorder.
Thank you. Seth?
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Seth Hansen. I'm the Partnership Development Manager for Groups Recover Together. We're an outpatient opioid use treatment program, 7 locations across the state. Local to you guys would be Barbersville and then Dunbar. And we also have a hybrid model also. So, thanks for having me.
I'm Bethany Perez, and I do peer recovery with the Potomac Highland Guild. I was on a Zoom yesterday and saw this in the chat, so I just wanted to join and see what was up with the meeting.
Thank you. Bonnie?
Hi, Terry. My name is Bonnie Helby. I'm with Endivior. I work in the criminal justice side of things, so I'm here really to learn from all of you and then also see if there are any resources that I could provide. Our company is best known for Sublocade, which is a long-acting injectable for opioid use disorder. So thanks for having me join.
Sherry Sloan?
Good morning, everyone. I'm trying to figure out how to turn my camera on. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
There we go.
Hey.
There we go. Okay. So my name is Sherry Sloan. I'm one of the transition agents with Jobs and Hope, West Virginia. I serve Region 2 which is Huntington, Wayne, Cabell, Lincoln, and Mingo counties. And we help with career education training to help participants get into career level positions, and then try to help eliminate all the barriers that they have along the way.
Danica, you want to go?
Good morning. My name is Danica Brown. I work for West Virginia Division of Corrections and the Offender Services Department of Central Office, and I assist with housing and networking our population to resources such as yours and others in the community.
Thank you. Tara? Tara, you want to introduce yourself?
All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, sorry, I was talking and I didn't know. All right, so my name is Tara Mason. I'm the founder, CEO, and president of the Hoop Dealer Project. We are a nonprofit organization here in the Eastern Panhandle that assists individuals with getting into treatment, detox, rehab, sober living. We assist with employment. We also assist families in the event of an overdose death with donation for burial or cremation. I mean, just a whole complete wraparound. If there's something that I missed, I assure you we cover it. I also go into the judicial system and advocate for treatment as opposed to incarceration, a lot. We are also holding a recovery fest. I see someone just posted up the recovery fest. Thank you. That's September 28th. So if you are a resource provider here in the state of West Virginia, we are still accepting vendors. So definitely reach out to me and I can get you the sign up link. We are still looking for vendors. We also got prayer. Maybe I need it right now. We also got the governor's endorsement to go purple. So the entire state of West Virginia being the first state in the US for it to go purple in its entirety during the month of September for National Recovery Month. So that is for each and every one of you. So definitely rock your purple in September, purple porch lights, purple clothing, purple ribbons, all of it. Let's show our support and let's talk recovery. Recovery is possible. Thank you.
thank you. It looks like Tiffany Wilson.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. I'm with the Huntington Treatment Center. I am in the supervisor of their peer support program. I also cover Clarksburg and Wheeling as well. We offer MAT to patients dealing with opioid use addiction.
Thank you. And last but not least, Valerie Slater.
I'm so glad to join you all this afternoon or this morning. I'm Valerie Slater. I am a practicing attorney in Virginia and the executive director of the organization Rise for Youth, which stands for Reinvest in Supportive Environments for Youth. I'm also a restorative justice practitioner and a mediator. I hail from Seattle, Washington, by way of Colorado for undergrad and to Virginia for law school. So I guess I've just made my trek across the United States, and I had the great honor of being with you all for the Restorative Justice Conference just last month, where I met many of you, and I'm glad to be with you here this afternoon. I'm so glad. And can I just say that it is exciting to be in community right now with so many folks who all recognize the need to help folks recover, to help people get back on their feet, to help folks find their way. And before I jump into it, I want to turn it back over to you and give you a chance to kind of say any other housekeeping or anything else you'd want to say before I jump in?
No, there's no housekeeping. I've
Okay.
already told everybody about you coming to speak, and we're all just very excited to hear
Awesome.
what you have to say.
Awesome, awesome. Well, then, with that said, just I'm once again just honored to be here with you all. And as many of you may remember, I talked about during the Restorative Justice Conference the top 5 crimes committed in West Virginia. And I'm going to go from the bottom up instead of top down. So, number 5 was shoplifting. Number 4 was destruction, damage, and vandalism of property. Number 3 was simple assault. Number 2 was all other larcenies. And number 1 was drug and narcotic violations. And what we can say from that list is that every one of those, number 2 through 5, are either a result of or lead to number 1, which is that drug offense. And so, how appropriate is it that so many of you are helping folks recover from drug and narcotic addictions and illnesses and those kinds of things? And so, with that said, when we think about reentry, when we think about folks coming home, unless we deal with the underlying issues, and once again, leaning back towards those social determinants of health and what the most disparate or the most where folks are struggling the most, once again, in West Virginia, that's poverty and socioeconomic status, meaning folks are in low income jobs or they're unemployed, they have limited access to education and resources, limited access to providers. So that means that physical health, being able to take care of their physical body or their mental health, those areas their struggle, education and literacy. And once again, the substance abuse and addiction, food swamps, where folks are unable to get good quality food. And then once again, that rural health disparity. If that's where all of the challenges are, when we think of the social determinants of health, when we think about how are folks going to plan for and be prepared to live robust, fulfilled lives where they are meeting all of their needs. When we think of the Pavlov's hierarchy of needs, just being able to have some place to lay our head, having some place where we're able to prepare good, healthy food, having some place where we are safe, having some place where if we have family members where we are feeling loved and we are able to support and care for those individuals. If we aren't able to meet those very, very basic needs, what might folks do to escape from that lack, to escape from feeling as if I can't meet the basic needs of myself or my family? And unfortunately, substance abuse and addiction, that once again, it is number one. It is the number one reason that folks find themselves in the justice system. And so, what are we going to do about it? Rather than rehearsing the issues, what is it that we're going to do about it? And as I have heard all of the different organizations that are represented here, I am sure that there are so many collaborations that are already going on. I would be interested to know how many of you organizations represented here have a strategic plan that includes each of you other folks and your organizations, and what are your short-term goals and then your long-term goals. I really don't want to spend a lot of time talking at people because I don't need to preach to the choir, right? But if there isn't a strategic plan, how might we, even today, begin to kind of map what it is each of you is doing, what areas you're serving, how might overlap look, and then how do you then begin to map out goals that you are going to work towards? And then as you achieve each milestone, that you begin to look even further into the future so that your impact is greater. And so I'm going to stop there. And just the first question is there a strategic plan that includes everyone here, that kind of lays out what you do and how it overlaps and how you collaborate. And you got to unmute.
I'd like to say that we do have a slight strategic plan. Like whenever I have a client that is in need of assistance to reenter society, I reach out to my other council members and in their area and try to find them resources. And then like earlier today, I reached out to Seth and I said, hey, I have a client here. So whenever she gets released, she needs to go smoothly into that program. And I know also Jobs and Hope is amazing. Like we work together. I refer clients to them right from our quick base. And you know, the biggest goal, the biggest obstacle right now is getting people out is housing. So that's something that I would love to work on.
It's not just housing, it's basic transitional housing for people who have sexual offenses and for people who have violent offenses that may be domestic or strangulation charges, things of that nature. We have plenty of housing for recovery, but we don't have housing for sex offenders that may be dual diagnosis, or housing for individuals that have violent offenses that are dual diagnosis, that may have been charged with those domestic due to their SUD disorder. And we don't have housing for people who need basic transition that do not have SUD disorder at all.
Yes, that's what I meant, is transitional housing. Absolutely. There's a big need for that.
So there are 21 reentry councils across West Virginia. And so a lot of us that are on here participate in multiples because they may cover various regions. So we know, you know, who to connect with. You know, we always have the chat feature. I have started this really ugly database of collecting people from the chat to put it into a Google Sheet. And that's one of my plans for our Vista worker that we're going to get, is to make this something usable. We have services like 211. Actually, we just got our notification yesterday to update and make sure that our information is correct. But that happens once a year. Every single one of us know that burnout happens and people change. So councils like this and connecting monthly is how we connect and know who our resources are. So.
Got it. Okay, so I noticed that the biggest gap right now is for transitional housing for those individuals with those particular offenses. And is it a barrier to educate or to funding? What creates the barrier to creating that housing?
Funding is a big part of the barrier because we don't have individuals or an agency that may have access to not just creating a model for it, but having a grant writing committee, because SUD is very, has come a long way in our state. And there are a lot of resources and grant writers that assist a lot of agencies that have the means to provide these resources. We don't have those same people wanting to step in and help the other population. And a lot of it, people say, is because of the cost of the insurance to even insure the property of those particular populations. And one of the things I don't think people realize is, if you have sex offenders, for example, in the same location that have resources coming in to provide dual diagnosis help with SUD or mental health, and even give them a job on site that doesn't require them to access the internet or be around children or schools or daycares, it could effectively be ran if properly supervised. But when things like that make sense, people aren't quick to put money in those things because they're not as popular or as researched as the substance use disorder epidemic has been.
So, right, stigma and hurtful legislation. I'm reading all of these reasons, and believe me, Virginia and quite frankly, across the nation, it's no different. And so, it I'm loving that there is this framework already for, hey, you know what, my this person coming out, let me refer them to you. But it looks as if, you know, true effort, and not just in West Virginia, but perhaps a Virginia um, and West Virginia, maybe together we begin to work on that particular issue. Raising awareness that every life matters, right? If we really want to work from a restorative paradigm, that says that even someone who has caused this type of harm is harm. And when you've caused it, you can be restored. If you have done what it is that the justice system has required of you, you have met every requirement, and you are now returning home. When is it that we are willing to restore those individuals back to community? And so it will not be a popular campaign. It will not be a popular fight, but we need to take it on, right? It's the fight that we must take on. We must be the ones to say, we are willing to love the ones that no one else wants to love. And why won't you love everyone? So what does that look like? How do we? And Danica, I heard you say that there are folks who aren't willing to, while they're writing grants, they're not so much willing to write the grants for this type of thing. Is it that they would actually carve it out? Because I'm thinking of grants that won't carve out that population. Will the person writing the grant carve them out?
I really believe that some people haven't looked for models of what works either, because in the state of Florida, I have looked at models that have been established strictly for this particular population in housing. And they not only have partnerships in the community, in the SUD community and the mental health community, but they also have partnership in law enforcement and in corrections. And they even have someone who is in the lawyer, legal advocacy aspect of it as well. And they seem to run pretty well.
Oh. Is it possible to either have a few of those folks come, or for a group of you to go, but somehow, get a real up close and personal look at what they've got going on, so that then you're able to draft something to present to uh, state officials first, right? And then as you're looking at folks who are writing these grants on the state level, hey, you know what? We're not shooting for a pie in the sky. This is something that is happening, and it's happening in a state that, Florida, it's not very blue. I mean, that matters. And it matters when you can go to a state that, is pretty bright red, and say, hey, we're doing this, we're doing it effectively, and we have all of the key players at the table contributing, and there is success. It's kind of hard to push against that. It's kind of hard to say, well, we don't want to at that point. So what is the likelihood of potentially being able to go and visit, which if I'm honest, I think is a better idea, rather than having them come and talk about. It's better to go and see.
I agree with that, but it's one of those situations where you have to have it presented in a way that it makes everybody interested, to where everybody cares about it. Because when you look at the rules and the laws in our state that have changed in terms of governing substance use disorder, people that were in legislation were compelled to care because of what they saw in their communities. And the thing is, when you look at recovery housing and sober living residents, people look at those types of housing as a stain in the community or a problem, but they're not, because they're giving people that have SUD places to stay that are effective, that connect them to resources for housing, for recovery, and for mental health needs. And sometimes those housings being available help parents be reunited with their children.
Yeah.
So when you have advocates that fall in those areas that are allowed to be heard, that are getting seats at the table to discuss this because of what's happened in our state, then that's why legislation was compelled to do more.
Yeah.
But when you look at the sex offenders and the other crimes that fall under the Senate Bill 371 legislation that says, okay, for 1 year, you've got to be on electronic monitoring, but then you've also got to do your extended supervised release. Most of the time, people can't be released if they don't have an adequate place to stay to do that 1 year with us and then continue their extended supervised release. Because you don't have landlords that are saying, okay, I would like to be a help. And sometimes on a case-by-case basis, a lot of these offenses aren't the way that people think they are.
Right.
Like, for example, you may be somewhere with some of your friends enjoying yourself. Someone may present themselves to you as one age, but they're really another. And because their ID says they're that age, say you have a date with that person, you can get charged and potentially have to register because that person lied to you. And it may not necessarily be a case where someone in a position of trust did something to someone that's a minor.
Right.
It could be stuff like that.
And I'm aware of a few people that, without realizing what they were doing, actually took a plea so they wouldn't have to go to court and face something more serious. Well, you just signed your life away. You just made it 10 times harder for you to get out of prison and get reestablished. If you are not guilty of that sex crime, then you should fight it. That, they're scared to fight. They're scared to fight. And some of the people are sentenced to like 1 to 5s. So now when you're thinking about somebody that committed a sex crime, you're thinking, oh, this is a horrible person. They did bad things. You're not thinking of 1 to 5. That's not something that comes to mind.
You're also not thinking about 2 people that were in a relationship that was consensual, and they might have been 3 years apart, maybe 4. But if the parents get upset because they separated and they're not a resource to their family anymore, then they have charges of statutory rape and things like that. So that's how a lot of people end up in these situations as well.
And I'm gonna add in there from the disability advocacy standpoint, one of the things that we deal with is well, I'm working with a client right now, and he has an intellectual disability. When they have that type of diagnosis and they have those types of charges, they go to a state hospital, a state mental facility. We currently have people that have been there much longer than they should have because there's nowhere for them to go. Because the transitional housing that is available isn't capable of taking care of people with those types of disabilities. And the ones that are, there's very few of them, they're full. And people might be in that transitional housing. The gentleman that I'm working with right now, I purposefully, even though I know where he's at, I know he has to have had there's a reason he's there. He's been there for several years because he cannot live on his own because of his developmental disability. He needs to be in some sort of assisted living, like maybe like rest care or something like that. He's ready, but there's nowhere for him to go because even those facilities are completely short. The staffing, the funding, everything that we've talked about here. So when you have somebody with some sort of intellectual disability, they need care. They don't have the family support for whatever reason. They may not have family support. They get stuck they just get stuck. And we have people in our state facilities, like I said, they've been sitting there for years longer than what their sentence was, than what the judge said they had to be there, because the facilities are just not available in West Virginia. And so, we have a couple of advocates that do monitorings, and they keep an eye on those people and try to make sure that everything is being done that can be done. But when your hands are tied, they're tied.
So, this is all heart-wrenching, right? I mean, and then there's the instance where they're maybe that 2 or 3 years apart in age, they're both underage, and then one turns 18. One crosses the threshold, and for whatever reason, there's a falling out, right? And so, yeah, all the scenarios, unfortunately, are pretty limitless, but no one is telling these stories, right? If someone were to take the time to tell these stories in these ways, and it is in no way an attempt to diminish, harm that has been done in other instances. In no way is it that, but can it lead to, can the telling of these stories in this way and the exploration of perhaps what's going on in Florida, and Florida is not the only place that's doing it in a way that could potentially be a model, but the research to find other places that are doing it, that have models, someone telling the stories, and then being able to provide a solution or a menu of potential solutions to choose from so that West Virginia can create its own, right? And then even highlighting the fact, because this story is multifaceted, there's the fact that it isn't just a fact that it isn't just that individuals are wrongfully charged, or that the circumstances surrounding how they got that charge are not as heinous as folks would like to believe. It isn't just that folks are perhaps trapped where they're serving a sentence where they no longer need to be, but there's no place for them to live. And it isn't just that there isn't funding, it's all of those things. And there's a stigma attached, so it's all of those pieces, but who is telling that story succinctly so that all of those pieces then come into, it's like you were sharing with the SUD, right? That folks they care now. But even with that, when you look at what your legislature attempted to do at the top of the year in 2023, they even tried to roll back some of the things that they had put into place, right? They began to even attempt to attack just that quickly. They were ready to flip the switch back in the other direction. But unless the time is taken to tell that story succinctly, lift up all of these pieces, and I mean bombard the West Virginia community with this knowledge, right? It's kind of hard to ignore something when you are hit with layer after layer after layer of the impact that's being had on the lives of these individuals, and that there is no respite, there is no way out for many of these folks. And then to say, okay, you're kind of overwhelmed with all that we have said, and now you're asking, well, what can we do? Well, here are some opportunities for West Virginia. And I am not in any way attempting to say I've got the answer, because I don't, right? But at the same time, when you know what all of the issues are, and you are able to look out and see perhaps that some folks have some potential avenues of recourse, we must take the time to explore them all. Because what if West Virginia becomes the model that Virginia then follows, right? What if West Virginia becomes the model that, larger states could potentially follow? Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? As I was researching West Virginia and all that is going on there, I'm going to tell you, my heart broke in many respects, especially at the criminal legal system. My goodness, the attempt to just bombard hurting people and to literally throw them away. It overwhelmed my heart. And so even though I live in Virginia, I am wanting to, how can I be a part of the solution? Because I also realize that some of those solutions are needed here as well. And if I can be a part of helping a solution be brought to light there, that can be the, like I said, the model for here. And I'm going to stop talking there for thoughts and reflections from others.
Yeah, I wish that I had an answer. I know that we're doing everything that we can through the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy as far as writing stories, sharing things, and trying to get people to care about transitional housing. But every time something positive comes out, then it seems like something negative hits us. And every time that a drug treatment program gets shut down or something goes wrong, then all those people have to go into sober living houses or transition houses. And then we're shut off again from getting people out of prison, and I mean,
Sober living and transition housing are two different things.
Yes, yeah, I know.
Everybody groups them together in the conversation. That's why transitional housing gets overlooked. Recovery residents in sober living homes are step-down housings for treatment facilities. They're not basic transitional housing. And when we had this conversation back in 2017, all of that was grouped together, and it shouldn't have been, because yes, there are step down phases of recovery and SUD. That's where you start with OFLAC certified treatment centers, and then from there, West Virginia Alliance of Recovery Residents established standards from the National Alliance of Recovery Residents, and they said, hey, sober living homes and recovery residents need to be properly certified to make sure that they're providing the level of care and connection of resources that are necessary for people with SUD to maintain their sobriety after they get out of treatment. But in addition to that, basic transitional housing needs to occur for people who don't have that disorder. And when people have that conversation, they throw the word transitional housing in that arena, and it's not the same thing.
Okay, yes, I understand. Yes, okay, got you. No, absolutely. We definitely need transitional housing. And yeah, I would love to know how to go about getting that done for West Virginia, because there's a huge need for it.
So I love that the stories are being written and being told in with the Center for Public Policy. I'm not sure. I know I didn't say that correctly, but
Yeah.
But who is it? What does the media look like in West Virginia? And how do you connect with the media to do a more of a long range story? And once again, just kind of, you know, having individuals who are spotlighted for their story, if they are willing to be, and even if they're, sitting in the dark and their voice has been changed, but folks telling their lived experiences. And then Aaliyah, for individuals with intellectual disabilities or other disabilities, that their stories are told in ways that humanize them and allow for who they are to shine beyond that harm, right? Who's doing that, and how can that happen?
Well, I don't know if you have looked into what is going on in West Virginia with people with disabilities recently.
Hmm.
We actually are trying to get it into the media. There's only really one media location in West Virginia that is reporting what we send them, which is West Virginia Watch. I do know that we've tried to get the larger media, like, I don't want to name names, but the larger ones involved, and they haven't really. I will say that on it just recently, ABC actually picked up what's going on here in the foster care system. Have you looked into what's going on here with that? Okay.
Tell me.
There is a class action lawsuit concerning children in the foster care system in West Virginia, because West Virginia is, and I'm going to quote our legal director, what he said in that ABC interview, 4 times higher than the national average. And we don't have anywhere to send those kids. A lot of those kids are being sent out of state, or they're being kept in hotel rooms. And the reason disability rights is got a different advocacy group started that focuses on foster kids. We got involved because a good portion of those foster children have disabilities of some sort. They have ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to. Some of them need assistive technology. So we got involved with it, and it has become a class action. We're trying to get those stories out there. We've also tried to get the stories out there about how people with intellectual disabilities, especially, get tossed into state hospitals. If you want to dig into that one, I will tell you, be very careful. There are some pretty disturbing pictures in some of those articles of the way that people are treated. Some of those people in those hospitals didn't commit a crime. They're not sentenced. There's just nowhere else for them to go. You can look at Sharp Hospital in West Virginia. I'll just let you do a Google search on Sharp Hospital. Actually, do a Google search for Sharp Hospital abuse allegation. And I am forewarning you about what pictures the reporters chose to put. And we're doing what we can but it goes back to the statement that you made, just toss them away. And we're not really sure, how do you fight that mentality? Because people that have disabilities are already kind of looked down upon as lesser than. It's something that I fight with the program that I work with employment. People just automatically assume you have this label, therefore you can't work as much. I hate to be the one to break it to everybody, but approximately 75% of the United States population has some form of disability. And most of them are invisible disabilities that people never know. And that's why people, and I see it even in my personal life, people are scared to go to the doctor and tell their doctor what's going on, because if they get that label, then there's an automatic stigma attached to it. And then if you add some sort of, criminal aspect to that on top of that, now you've got 2 stigmas. And then it compounds and it compounds and it compounds, and before you know it, well, we all saw what happened in the 80s and 90s when hospitals got shut down. Those populations moved into the homeless and correctional populations. So we are fighting it. I'll let you do some Google searches on Sharp Hospital and West Virginia foster care.
I did not want to come on and stir the pot, but at the same time, let's stir the pot, and come up with ways. And so at this point, I've already begun these Google searches, and I'm trying not to look at that half of my screen, but I'd like to continue, and not as a speaker, but if I could continue to just join you all, and as I do research, and if I find contacts who, you know, on the national level who may be willing to come and speak. And you know, and I'm thinking of media at this point because y'all know the stories. You don't have to, you know, figure out what to say. But I would love to continue to come on and bring who is willing to come and share what I have learned with who is willing to listen and see what we may be able to come up with. Um, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we're not about to come up with every solution, but we can certainly have some plans in place. We can know that we are going to be, number one, researching who has housing for individuals with that sex offender label, who has housing and they're doing it well for that population, who is doing well when it comes to individuals with disabilities, who is doing well in all of these different pockets of work, so that that can be something that we can bring to the group and research and figure out, do we go to them, do we allow them to come on and speak to us and talk through how they got to where they are, right? And you know, as we at the same time continue to search out the media outlets that will tell the stories, and not just, oh wow, here's this exciting bit, right? But do a comprehensive telling of the stories so that it literally is a bombarding of the West Virginia mind. The collective West Virginia mind is unable to stomach what they are hearing that is happening to their residents, right? To their people. And then that is when the framework for solutions will be most accessible and more acceptable to that collective mind. It's almost like you do the work of finding the solutions, but you keep the solutions hidden until you get critical mass of, I'm ready to see something change. We've got to hit tipping point before you start talking solutions. And that's sad, but we all know that it's true. You know, if you put forward those solutions too soon, folks will find reasons to disagree with them. Folks will find reasons to poke hole in the ideas. But if you make them literally sick to their stomach with what is happening, then they are desperate for solutions. But you have done the research to know that what you're putting forward is good and sound and solid. What a beautiful position to be in. And that's the position that I am hopeful that I can be a small part in helping to create. If y'all will have me.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many barriers, so many, you know, intricate pieces, and West Virginia, you know, it's a challenge trying to get anything through when it comes to people with felonies or people in prison or drug addiction problems, things like that. So yeah, we need to really work together and see what we can do. And thank you for stirring the pot. We needed it. We needed it. I believe you could look in the Charleston Gazette and read some stories also, as well as the Center on Budget and Policy, because they do publish some op-eds that people write and such as that. There's also been listening sessions that they do around the state and compile the evidence and what they found. So there's a lot of talk going on here, you know, but we just have to get the right people to listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot of things that are going on. A lot of them are pilot projects and are specific to certain areas and things. You know, there's things at the Western Regional Jail concerning IDs. That's a pilot project. There's another, I can't remember which one it is, but a kind of a watchdog website. So if there are things that are going on inside, people can report those, and that all of that goes back to Sarah Whitaker at the Terry, tell me.
West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy.
Yes.
I sent you my
Yes.
blog.
Yes.
That's the lady that handles criminal justice, you know.
So there are lots of things that are going on, but you know, we all try to work together to, you know, help and advocate. So if you would like to attend or present at any of our other reentry councils, please let me know. I host all 21 of them, so I can send you information, or Terry can send you my information, and we would love to have you at any of them. Any or
I
all.
would love to. I would absolutely love to.
Okay.
Because the more informed I am, the more potential help I can be. And even if it is just to amplify the stories across, right, in other spaces, because I'm a firm believer in, I'm glad that there are pilot programs and all of those things that are happening. And it would be very interesting also to see, what are the positive outcomes? What are the outcomes? And how, if they are positive, how can they be expanded upon, right? How do you scale it up? Because if West Virginia is already doing some good things and no one knows about it, what good is it, right? And it can certainly fizzle out and go away, but if it's amplified, then it's less likely that it would. And then I'm hearing that the resources are not being funneled to minority or LGBTQ communities. That's concerning. Because that, you know, substance abuse does not have a color. It does not have a gender, and it doesn't have an orientation. It doesn't have any of those things. And so if we know that the harm is happening to how is it that, there is a disparity in who's receiving the resources? And so my next question then is, if the resources are not going to those populations, then what does recourse look like for them? I mean, are they the folks that end up, incarcerated and not being seen as in need of help, or are they just slipping through the cracks? All of the above.
Well, all of the above, but sadly, you can drive downtown Huntington and see a large population of your LGBTQ, and they're mostly they're homeless, and they're hanging around the place. It's called the Harmony House, which offers resources for them, but very limited resources because they're overwhelmed as well.
Right.
I'm not trying to be funny, but I get tired of people saying, but they're overwhelmed. Because when it comes to discussing certain issues in our state, some things are not looked at as they are overwhelmed. When you look at the picture of how society is going, there is a strong need to be all inclusive, which means that regardless of your sexual orientation, your financial status, everybody should matter. Because when you look at the criminal justice system, you don't just have one particular group of people that end up incarcerated. And there is a surge in the population of people that are LGBTQ that are ending up incarcerated across the nation as well. So when you have those situations occurring, then you have to research and discuss how you house them. Because you may have some people in that community that might be transitioning to be who they really are, which might be male, which might be female. And they may not have completed that full transition. So those are things that are even looked at when you place them in recovery when they're dual diagnosis. Because sometimes those people are further victimized and abused because they still have the other workings that make them what they were, the sex or gender that they were originally born as, but not the sex or gender that they identified. So that's another issue that doesn't get addressed in that community.
The layers keep stacking. The layers just keep stacking. But what we can do is we can commit to fighting for everyone, for every person to be treated with dignity and to be given the resources necessary for them to be successful, whatever that looks like, whatever that need may be. I unfortunately, I have to hop off because I have another meeting that I've got to prepare for in the next 6 minutes. But I am so grateful that you allowed me to be here, and I look forward to continuing to be here and bringing whatever I have to offer to the table, but to look for and to find and then to realize true solutions. I hope y'all will continue to have me, and if there is anything that you think of, I put my email address in the chat, so please reach out. If you want to just talk through something in particular, reach out. I'm willing. I will admit that my schedule is hectic and wild, but I will respond to your email and offer you some times that I am available, and then we can set some time to talk. And so I will watch out for the meeting schedule for the different reentry councils, and I'm going to be on as many as I possibly can, but I am committing to this one. I'm committing to this one. So I thank y'all so much. I thank y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
I'll take care. Bye-bye.
Cherie, I dropped information for you on how to join the councils and get the emails.
Yes, Miss Sharia, she was a few minutes late, but I'm so glad she made it. Oh my God. Can you hear me? Sharia, can you hear me? No. All right. Well, this was a highly interesting meeting. No, I may have put some words together that.
Okay, I think can you hear me now?
Yes, I'm so happy
Okay.
you joined us. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. I'm not real up on Zoom, so I was having trouble unmuting myself.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm so glad you joined us, and this means a lot.
Yeah, it was nice to hear some different perspectives on things and see so many people kind of trying to get involved. So
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I mean, I'm all in for transitional housing. I'm not gonna group those words together anymore.
I think that's right. They do get grouped together, and there is nowhere for people without substance abuse problems to go. Like it's a real issue. And I think, and if I'm wrong, correct me. I think when you were saying we're overwhelmed here at the Harmony House, it's not the population that we're serving, it's the number of people we're serving. It's not who we're serving, it's the sheer number of them. And Huntington
that's what
we're
I'm
bombarded. There is a lot of help in Huntington for people, but there's so many people that we don't have enough resources to help everyone.
Yes, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah. I was nervous. This is my real first official meeting, like I've actually had people attend and a serious conversation, but I enjoyed it.
The exchange of ideas.
I hope that I didn't let anybody down. I'll do better next time.
You did fine. We just had an exchange of ideas, and people spoke, their thoughts on what we were talking about. That's how change takes place. That's how resources network.
Yes.
Open conversations where people can agree and disagree and also agree in a healthy environment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tamika. Okay, well, I'll give you all the rest of your day back, and thank you all for coming and joining in our fight. Bye.
Bye.